Okay, now we do want to open up Bridge. So there's several options of doing that. You can go ahead and go to the Windows panel, select Bridge, or you can open them directly from Photoshop. To do that, you can go ahead and go to File, Browsing Bridge, or you can go ahead and press this very conveniently located button so you can launch Bridge. And we'll do that right now. Now, if you notice that the very first thing that we see in Bridge, of course, is the content box. Now, there you have your desktop folders, your computer, and it basically works like a navigator of sorts of whatever is on your computer. But the main purpose of it is to use it to use your assets that you can use in Adobe products like Photoshop or Illustrator, Fireworks, Dreamweaver, etc. So we'll go ahead and start by going to a folder that I had created that has several different file types. Um, and here, as you can see, there are some photos that are JPEGs and some that have the or the suffix .cr2. Now the .cr2 are actually raw files, and the interesting thing about that, you don't have to open up a raw conversion software to go ahead and view them. You're able to view them right on Bridge. Now, notice that when I went ahead and highlighted an image, it opened on the right hand side. And just like Photoshop, you're able to go ahead and create your own workspaces. I prefer to go ahead and have my content box actually where the preview is at, and my preview right in the middle. Now I might want to go ahead and just pull this in a little bit more to go ahead and be able to select some more options. Now, um, while you were following me along, I'm sure you noticed that some images or some files took longer to preview than others. And the reason behind that is because Photoshop is trying to compute, or Bridge is trying to compute everything that each associated file type has, and to display a proper preview. So let's go ahead and show you a JPEG. Now in a JPEG, its default setting is to open up in Photoshop. You go ahead and right click, you can go ahead and see open with, and of course Photoshop CS5 is this default. But other programs, like for example, this this vector file will actually open up default Illustrator CS5, and then we go a little bit further down, we'll see that we have some PNG files, and this one actually opens up with um, Fireworks. Should be is default, but we actually have it in Photoshop. And good point. What happens is that we actually went to edit and preferences, and we actually went to file type associations, went down to its type of file type, which is a PNG, and we shows that its default would be um, Photoshop. Now you're able to go ahead and change this because you can go ahead and select Fireworks or Photoshop or Illustrator, and those are the primary programs that open up that particular file type. And as you can see, there are so many different types of file types available, and you can go ahead and select what file types will open with what program. For example, bitmaps will open up with Photoshop. Um, there's also HTML. Um, that one can go ahead and be opened up with Dreamweaver. The .ai files, which are vector files, or those ones you can select to open up with Illustrator or in Photoshop. At this point, we'll go ahead and leave that as is. I just want to go ahead and make a point. You don't have to right click to get to it. All you have to do is just select the image through the content panel and double click, and it should open directly into Photoshop. Now, if you do have, for example, a raw file, it will open up in Photoshop, but before you can actually work on it in Photoshop, you have to go ahead and do some changes or some settings on on Camera Raw. So we'll go ahead and give you that example right now. Let's go back to Bridge, and we'll open up a CR2 image, and this one's a perfect example because it's an overexposed raw file. So I'm opening it up on Photoshop, and of course Camera Raw came out. And so we'll just go ahead and drag this onto this side, and we'll go ahead and drag from this side so we can make sure that we have most of the screen occupied. Now on the top left hand side, You do have some options where you can go ahead and rotate the image to the right orientation or left orientation in case your camera did not automatically do that. You do have eyedropper tools. You do have the hand tool when you go ahead and zoom in, and you can zoom uh, in certain aspects of the picture like so, and get the hand tool to go ahead and move this around. What we also have here on this side is, of course, the temperature. The very first thing that I would do to this image, I will go ahead and lower the exposure. It gives you more of a correct exposure. If I want more contrast, I can give it more contrast. And as you can see on the screen, is actually getting a more contrast. Um, the other thing that I have seen is that this image might be a little bit too cool, so we go ahead and warm that up. Now you can use the sliders here, or you can actually go ahead and dial in the number that you want to put. And in this case, I think I'll go with 5100 and see what that gives me. A whole lot better. And clarity, which is the same option if you use Adobe Lightroom. Clarity almost gives you the same option. And if you double click, actually it goes back to the default setting, and that goes with everything else. Now, if you go ahead and press these tabs, you get your, this is more like a curves for your tonalities. You can do that. Detail will give you sharpening. If you hold down the Alt key, hopefully it does the same thing as in Lightroom, where while holding down the Alt key and doing the masking, it'll go ahead and start detecting the edges, and will give you an indication of when you go ahead and give it more sharpening, what it's going to sharpen, what it's not going to sharpen. The white will get sharpened, the black will not get sharpened. And of course, it also has noise reduction, which is a new feature in Lightroom as well as in Photoshop Camera Raw. It did not carry it before, and it's actually a very good noise reduction filter that it has. It works excellent. Let's go ahead and zoom in. It's just a little bit more, just to go ahead and see the image a little bit closer. And once we have that, we'll just use again the hand tool to go ahead and find where we're at here. There we go. And on her crown, if you notice, we have some chromatic aberration going on. So there's actually a tab that takes care of that. And basically, you just move the slider around to go ahead and see how much you might want to go ahead and remove, and just get the setting correctly. So we'll go ahead and move this around just to see what settings we have here. I think that will be fine. And so we'll go ahead and, now that we have those settings that we put, they're non-destructive. They are not actually affecting the raw file. Once I go ahead and press open image, what happens is it converts it into a JPEG, and it opens up in its own document panel, and we'll be able to go ahead and work on that. Now there is so much that we can actually do on Camera Raw, but for now we'll just go ahead and leave it, as a basic, and maybe in a later chapter we'll go ahead and go into much more detail. What I do want to go ahead and point out is that when this image does open up, you have the images opening up in a tab menu. So what I do want to go ahead and show you is that there's a little drop down menu here where you can select float in all windows, so you have the documents floating in their own windows. This is very useful if you're combining images. You can go ahead and select float in all windows, and that will allow you to go ahead and grab this image, drop it into the other image. And this is what I was talking to you earlier, that it will go ahead and ask me, hey, wait a minute, you're taking this sRGB profile into an Adobe 98. Do you want to go ahead and work with the current RGB, with the current profile setting? And I'm going to select OK.